Now we've, thank God, we finished this week. We've done 2 Maimorim already. We did this Maimer about Adam, Ki Bor Basaro, short Maimer that explained that nowadays we don't have any Tzorat, this Torah affliction called Tzorat. And because what is Tzorat? Tzorat is a sign from God that a person is almost totally perfect and that he can receive the highest awarenesses of God, but there's just a little sort of a blemish in his the externalities of his soul, and so therefore God sends him the message, the warning light on his skin, that his skin develops this thing. But nowadays there isn't anything like this because everybody has many blemishes in their soul, and I don't know exactly what God expects from us, but then the rest God has people has many blemishes on their soul, and it's too much. So there can't be this tzorat anymore, because the blemishes are too in our soul are too deep and too this is only Moshiach is going to fix it up. So therefore, nowadays there is no tzorat. That's what he explains over here. Now let's explain another interesting thing. I don't know how much of this we're going to finish, but we'll see. In the Gemara, in Baba Metzia, Peraka Poelin, says over there like there's something very interesting. It says, Kam mafligi de mesifta rekia. There's a big argument in what's called the heavenly court, the heavenly yeshiva. Now it seems that after people die, Jews, after they die, they can't do commandments. Of course, they can't do any commandments because they don't have any body. And so therefore, the ideal situation is not to be in heaven. The ideal situation is that we're supposed to be in this world and fix up the world. But what can we do? There is, Adam brought this thing called death into the world, and the Jews did it again when they worshiped the golden calf. So there's death. So after a person dies, it means that just doesn't mean that he dies, that it stops existing, but means that his soul still exists. And the soul, let's say the person was, anyway, the soul can learn Torah. So the people that really devoted themselves to learning Torah, and they devoted themselves to learning the Torah because they felt it was God's Torah, and they were becoming partners with God by learning the Torah. So every word by them was this big miracle, and they were always attached to the Creator, and it was a bit okay. So with love, with great love, and so those people, after they die, they go up what's called the heavenly court or the heavenly yeshiva, and they learn Torah. They learn Torah. Now the Torah, of course, is much above this. The Torah is the source of creation of all the worlds, even the spiritual worlds. So they're up there learning Torah, right? So you figure these souls up there, they're learning Torah, and these are only the purest of the purest souls that were in this world. So they're, they must be always right. Well, we'll see. It's not exactly so. Here we go. So there's a big argument up there. How can there be arguments? God gave the Torah in a way that he wanted there to be arguments. He wanted there to be arguments. So there was an argument in the heavenly court. Im beheret kodmav l'sar lavan tame b'im sar lavan kodem le beheret tohar. There's a law that says, remember we learned this at 3:00 in the afternoon. We learned a few of the laws of the Tzorat, and we learned that's this week's Torah portion. That what is Tzorat? It's a discoloration of the skin, and white, different shades of white, and in this white, and there has to grow. If there grows up hairs, 2 white hairs, then the person is declared impure until these signs go away. Impure. He has to be outside of the camp, and nobody can touch him. If he goes into a room, everything in the room becomes impure. All the laws we learned. But that's only if the hairs come after the white discoloration. But if the hairs are there beforehand, these 2 white hairs, and the discoloration comes afterwards and surrounds them, then the person is not impure. What if there's a doubt? What if the person doesn't know? One morning he wakes up and he doesn't notice, doesn't notice what's going on. He knows that something's wrong with his arm, his leg, something like that. And then the next morning he sees that there's this blemish with the hairs in it. What came first? The hairs? I don't know. I don't know what came first. I have absolutely no idea. I saw there was something wrong yesterday, but I didn't put my mind to it. And I don't know what came first. So it says, if there's a doubt, now there's an argument. Listen to who the argument is between. As it says in the Talmud, this is a serious business over here. They're really speaking seriously. Listen to this. Suffolk, but if there's a doubt, right? If the hair comes first, then the person is okay. If the hair comes after the discoloration, then the person is impure. Suffolk, if there's a doubt, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, God says, Tahor, the person is Tahor. Akulu Matifta Dekriya, and the whole entire heavenly court says, Tameh, it's impure. God argues with the court. What does this mean? We'll see. Who's going to decide? So they said, Nochach Rabba Bar Nachmani. We got to go down to the earth and get Rabbi Bar Nachmani. The Omar Rabbi Bar Nachmani, Ani Yachid ben Negoyim, Ani Yachid ba'olos. Said, I am the only one that really is I'm the unique expert on this Negoyim. Negoyim means this tzarat, and in the laws of also of tents, becoming impure in a tent. It tells Omar Tohor Tor, and he said, I say that it's Tohor. That's what he said. You ask me, I'm saying that it's okay. And finally, God said, Nitzchuni b'nei Nitzchuni. The Gemara continues, and it says, you have defeated me. Right? God says it's Tohor. The Matifta, the Rakia, says it's Tameh. And they say, let's go down to this. And finally, they decide, like, Gemara and the Gemara Masechtas Nida, Paris, they said the reason that Omer Kra, Lataro, Latama, the Torah says clearly that the Tzorat, the signs are there in order to make it pure or to make it impure. However, Patach, since it starts off with Tar, to be pure first of all, then, okay. So let's understand what's going on over here. How can we say that there's this argument in the heaven, and it was decided by Rabba Bar Nachmani? How can we say that it was Tzorech Lahavin? We have to understand, first of all, who are these Tanaim and Amoraim? Who are these people that are called the Tanaim and the Amoraim, that they wrote the Mishnah and the Braita and the Gemara and the Talmud? Right? Who are these people? They decide what the laws are. We do laws, we Jewish people do laws because Beit Hillel says to do it, because Rabbi Akiva says to do it. But all the details of Shabbat and these are all decided by these rabbis of the Talmud. And all the people who wanted to destroy Judaism, they were the first target to go against the Tanaim and the Amoraim. Today, even more, these are the people that are called with the derogatory name of the Pharisees. The Pharisees. Even if you look up in an English dictionary, a pharisaical thing is like a person who's like, it's bad. It's a what do you say? It's a pharisaical statement. It's like, I can't remember when it was selfish or the dishonest, something like that. Well, that's really evil. I mean, of course, that was begun with Christianity. The whole thing was just hating Judaism. That's the essence of Judaism, hate it. So these Tanaim and the Amoraim. It says that, what's his name? The founder of that religion, Christianity, that he's boiling in hell because he taught everyone to hate the Tanaim and the Amoraim, to hate the people. That's his big. But who are these people? Really, why should we do things? Because there was a big group called the Tzadukim. The Tzadukim were the same thing. Hating the Tanaim and the Amoraim. I mean, not nice to say, but basically that's what Reform and Conservative Judaism is also. Going against the Tanaim and the Amoraim. Who are these people? This is like Rabbi Akiva, Hillel, right? Shammai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Let's see. Who are these people? Sha'anu roim, we can see at the moftim atzumim, the tremendous miracles that they did. Come on, Reb Pinchas ben Yair, in the beginning of Chulin, he said, Ginai Nara Chaluk Limemecha. He split the sea. He split this river called the Nar. And what that Moses and all the Jewish people, all together, 600,000 people, 600,000 Jews, in their merit, the sea split, and he did it alone. Also, it says Zutra b'chem b'chayamisim. It also says that the the last of the Tanaim, and we see that also there were some of the Amoraim also. They enlivened the dead. People were dead, and they brought them back to life. B'zachalu calls in. How did they get to merit this? By means of the Torah. So what do we have over here? There was an argument in the heavenly court and God, Kodesh Baruch Hu, about a certain law, and they said, let's go down and ask one of the Tanaim and see what he's got to say, right? Rabbi Bar Nachman actually was one of the Amoraim, Rabbi Bar Nachmani, right? Rabbi, and they asked him one of the Amoraim, and he decided the law. So how could this possibly be? God, I mean, God doesn't know the law. What does that mean? He said, no, the law's like God. The Cain Omru, Zutra Shebechu. So it says that these people had the ability to raise the dead. Right? No one ever thought of making a religion out of them or anything, but nevertheless, they had the power to raise the dead. But Tzarech Leber, we have to feel, what is this name, Kodesh Baruch Hu? What does it mean when we call God Kodesh Baruch Hu? And also, what is this thing of the heavenly court? So I want to do this quickly, and then we're going to skip to the end because it's a long mimer. It's very beautiful. Inyan is Kiyine Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. The Holy One, this is what we call in Kabbalah Keter, the highest of the 10 Sfirot, or above the 10 Sfirot. Sometimes they count Keter, they don't count Dat. Anyway, the highest of the 10 Sfirot, the crown, or translated loosely, it's also God's will. That's Kodesh. The Afapi, even though sometimes Teferet and of Atzilut is also called Kodesh. Okay, this is because this Keter is the source, right? Etc. 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 Okay, Baruch Hu, beginning Baruch. This word Baruch. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the word Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. Yeah. One minute. The Holy One, blessed be. The Holy One means that He's removed for the world, so to speak. So Nimsa comes out that Kodesh is what's called Soviv Kalmim, how it is that God defies all definition. Right? He's above, below, God defies all definition. Baruch, this is what's called Mamalik Kalmim, how God enlivens the world, fills the world. So let's say in a general way, Soviv Kalmim is how God creates the world. Everything is the same. And Mamalik Kalmim is how God enlivens the world. Everything is different. That's very loose translation, but nevertheless, that's it. Mamalik Kalmim, how God is inside of everything, enlivening everything, that everything is there. And Soviv Kalmim is that everything exists. God exists, everything. Therefore, that's why Alke and Koro Chazal, that's why the rabbis call God HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Shu Soviv Kalmim or Mamalik Kalmim. So in other words, that we call God by this name, these are only aspects of God. Those are aspects of God. So the word Baruch means that God is in the world. This also has two meanings. One of them means that God is HaMelech Shlomo Baruch. What does it mean? That He received, Hunit Borech, He received blessings. He was blessed. Baruch means He was blessed. And the other one means that He's the source of all blessings. 1 second. HaMelech Shlomo, Vabeit, and the other one, Hashu Baruch, what does it mean? He's the source of all blessings. That he blesses everything. Okay, so what do we see? That God, we have an argument between God, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, this is only an aspect, two aspects of God. How God, so to speak, creates all the worlds are equal. And how God enlivens all the worlds, how all the worlds are different. That's called Kodesh and Baruch Hu. That's two aspects of God. Okay. Now we can, okay. And this thing of the Matifta de Rakia, one second. Oh, what is the Matifta de Rakia? This is what it says, that there's the chariot of God, right? The chariot of God. And there's these angels, the camp of Michael, Gabriel. This, of course, is below. These are only creations of Atzilut. Like the visions that Daniel had, etc. So it says that there is, there's the firmament, and then it says that there was snow on top of the firmament. Also in the vision of Ezekiel. Today we're going to learn, I hope, 3 o'clock we'll learn about the vision of Ezekiel, the third temple. But Ezekiel was amazing. What can we say? Ezekiel enlivened 20,000 people. He brought 20,000 just bones back to life. 20,000 bones. They weren't just bodies that were dead. You had to blow life into them. There was no flesh, and there was no brain, and there was no inside. There was just a bunch of bones, and he brought them back to life. That's pretty heavy. Heavy. Okay. Okay, so he says, so this level of the Mativta de Rakia, that's what it means. This is the Mativta de Rakia. Hine azochin lamadregazu. This is the Mativta de Rakia. The Rakia is some heavenly level. Above that is what's called the ice on the Rakia, and they're the souls that merit the spiritual level. That's called the heavenly court. This is a very, very high level, and the source is this Rakia, this firmament, which is on top of over these spiritual animals, the face of the lion, the face of the this, and etc. Okay, this is very, very high. And how does a person get to this? By means of learning the Torah for the sake of God, feeling the godliness of the Torah, not just learning the Torah as a textbook or whatever. And so now they have a power to draw down godliness into these upper worlds. That's the whole thing of the Tanaim and the Amoraim and Rabbi Yehuda, etc. It says that he would pray only once in every 30 days. Why, Rabbi Yehuda? Why? Because he was learning Torah, and Torah was even higher than prayer. Prayer is like a preparation, and the Torah that he learned was linking the essence of God with the essence of the world. That was the whole thing. That's the whole Talmud that we're learning. Okay, now we are going to skip. We have a little bit of an idea what it means Kodesh, what it means Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and this heavenly court, that they have the ability to draw godliness in the world, and especially those rabbis that are in the world, physical world. So let's go. Here we go. Let's try to jump to the end and see. I mean, I hope this whets everyone's appetite to want to learn the whole entire mimer. Here we go. Now let's understand, what is this heavenly court? That even though that they revealed, they merited these tremendously high levels, that God, they argued with God, Kodesh Baruch Hu, this aspect of God, what's called Soviv Kolim, Mamali Kolim, how God creates, surrounds the worlds, and He's inside of the worlds, and the God says pure, they say nevertheless, Al Kavzeh, nevertheless, they said it's not pure. Atam lo yadu, but nevertheless they didn't know until they asked someone in this physical world. Right? This heavenly court is so great, and God, of course, is even greater. What's the question? But nevertheless, there was a question. There was an argument between these two aspects, and they said, who's going to decide? So they ask somebody down in this physical world. And it is like this. It's explained the Tanaim and the Amoraim, that their whole occupation in this world was to learn Torah. Hakal, everything was the Amshich to draw down when they learned Torah. It drew down Miketer Elyon from what's called the upper crown of God, the crown, Milamayla Lamata, to bring it down into the world. From this level of Sovev Kolmim, that God surrounds the world, to Malchut, the lowest aspect, the kingship of God, which that's what's called Memalik Kolmim. In other words, the purpose of Judaism, to show why God is creating this physical world. That this physical world is higher than any of the other worlds. The other worlds we get pleasure, in this world God gets pleasure. And that's accomplished by learning Torah. When the Jews learn the Torah, you see how important it is to learn the Torah. Of course, you have to learn the Torah with a proper attitude. If you learn the Torah just as a a means to go to heaven or something, then that's not the point. It has to be the Torah. Learning the Torah is a means to bring the blessing of God in the world. You're doing what God wants. You understand, but you're doing with your brain, with your understanding. It's not easy. In this level of God, God surrounds the worlds. It's impossible that it should shine in a vessel, bisgalus mamash, that it should be revealed in the world. It defies all revelation. You can't reveal it. It's the essence of God, so to speak, in relation to the world. It's impossible that it can be revealed in the world, and that's our goal. Hasaga, to reveal the essence of God in a way that's understandable. It can't be done. Afilu b'gan Eden, even in heaven. When will it happen? In the raising of the dead. Then we'll really see pure godliness in the world. Raka Rasul Meir Ba'olam. Only a little bit of a shine of this aspect of what's called Kodesh, the Holy One. Right? Blessed be He. The blessed be He part of God, that sort of is revealed in the heavens. The Holy One, though, that isn't even revealed in the heavens. Only in the raising of the dead. Because this inner light and the surrounding light of God, they are united together one with the other. Therefore, this ray of this surrounding aspect of God, these are Kabbalistic terms, so we can't talk about it like we talk about, going to buying, milk and butter in the grocery store. These are things we don't exactly understand what they are, but we do understand that we're alive. And we do understand that the world exists, and we don't know how it exists, and we don't know what life is. And so we're saying that God, that what this life that enlivens us and this world that we see is like something of a ray, of a reflection, of a similarity, to God's reality. Something vague like that. But God's reality is infinitely more. How can it be revealed in the world? It says, well, first of all, there's prayer. There's one way. And that's something like being in heaven. And there's different levels of heaven. And there's learning the Torah. We're learning the Torah, proper attitude. And it gives us a little bit of an idea what God is. It's nothing like, revelation of God is nothing like these Eastern religions and these other, we're saying, certainly not like the guys, these ideas of going to heaven, and which are presented in this world by the Western religions, I'm going to call it. One minute. Oh, v'yadu, and it's known. Ki hayom lasotam. What's God in? What do we have in this world? In this world, we have commandments. In heaven, you got the Torah, you have godliness, you have revelations and everything, but don't have any commandments. The whole thing God created the world is, now He's creating the world. Now what? Lasotam, to do the commandments. And tomorrow, worried about the reward. Don't worry about rewards now. Okay, and therefore, in Gan Eden, in heaven, that they learn Torah, like it says, Kibul Schar, they learn Torah up in Gan Eden, in heaven, but it's in a way of receiving reward. By there, up there, they feel the holiness of the Torah. The holiness of the Torah they feel, but the essence they can't feel. Learning Torah in heaven is receiving these tremendous revelations of God. Even though that there is this light of God that reveals in heaven, this is what's called surrounding the world. Nevertheless, because the surrounding level, which is it sort of shines in an or panimi, in an inner light. Therefore, they can see or hazoreach misoviv kolman. They can sense a little bit of this light which is surrounding the world. That's what we call Kodesh Baruch Hu. This aspect of God, which is called Kodesh, holy, Soviv Kalmim, everything is always pure. Everything is always pure. Everything is the same. God is pure life, pure good. So therefore, God said, if it says in the Torah something is impure, then it's impure. But if there's a doubt, so everything that is not clearly impure is pure. So God says everything is pure. It surrounds all the worlds. Like we said before, Kodesh, this level of Kodesh, this is the level of Keter, the crown that surrounds all the world, surrounds all the worlds. And according to this level of this Keter, the crown of God, which is above all the worlds, and also Chachma, which is the second highest level, if you want to call it, of godliness, that shines in Gan Eden in heaven. So if it was a doubt, then it's pure. This is the godliness that shines down from in Gan Eden, a ray of godliness. So according to this ray of godliness, and from God's point of view, everything is Torah, everything is pure. But lo isigu rak giloi ratzon. But in heaven, they can only receive just the outer aspect of this God's will, which says that everything is pure. But the inner light that they receive, this mamali kalmin, and the reason for it, of this doubt, is they didn't understand it, right? God says if there's a doubt, it's okay. But that's God's point of view, that you don't have to have any understanding. Everything is just okay. That's how God forgives all sins and etc., right? A person gets to that level. That's what Haman thought. He could appeal to this level of godliness, and that even that he was a big murderer, a terrible person, that he would be okay, because up in that level, everything is okay, unless it's clear that it's not. But there's also a world, and the link between the essence of God and the world is the heavens. The heavens are spiritual levels. That's like a go-between. So the spiritual levels, they don't understand that you can say something is pure without having a reason. Hainu, Machmas Keys, Galus and now is from this level of Makif. It's too high. So we've called it. Zorach, it doesn't shine in an inner light. It's just concealed from them. Therefore, they can't understand why this should be pure. That God said it was pure, but the reason for it, they couldn't understand. And the whole thing of the heavenly court, you have to understand reasons. It has to come into logic. 1 minute, where does this start? Here's talking about these Kabbalistic levels, the Galgalta, the skull of Ratan, the upper will of God, etc. 1 minute. The Adarab, Alpia Saga, the Metifta Durkia, according to how the Metifta Durkia, this heavenly court, understands it. This is how God fills the world, like we said. So they don't understand this surrounding levels. Everything has to be understood. According to that understanding, there was no reason for saying that it's pure. Everything is impure. Kedin Sfeika Deraisa, like it says, there's a law which we say that if you ever have a doubt about a rabbinical law, then the law is that you go lenient. But if there's a doubt about a Torah law, you have to be severe. A simple example is to eat after you eat, to make a blessing after you eat bread. It's a commandment from the Torah. To make blessings after you eat, let's say fruit or whatever, you also have to say blessings, but those blessings are not from the Torah. They're from the rabbis. Only if you eat bread and a certain amount of bread is there a commandment from the Torah to make a blessing after eating. And the blessings are printed, what the blessings are. Right. The blessing is. But blessings after fruit is only from the rabbi. So if you have a doubt, let's say you finished eating, one person finished eating bread, another person finished eating fruit, and something happened, they went outside, they got interested, somebody said, hey, did we make a blessing after we ate? I don't know, I don't remember. We got a doubt. The one that ate the bread, he has to bless, because a doubt from the Torah is, you have to be severe. The one that ate the fruit, he has a doubt, he doesn't make a blessing. So therefore they went according to this law. This thing of the Nagayim, this tzorat, the white hair and the skin, if the white hair comes first, right? This is from the Torah. If you have a doubt, so you have to be severe. That's what the court said. So if, say, from God's point of view, that's surrounding the world, that's Kodesh, everything is pure, unless it says clearly in the Torah that it's not. From the Matip to the Rikiya, you have to have a reason for everything. You can't just say everything is pure. If there's a doubt, it's a doubt from the Torah, you have to be severe. Who's going to decide the law? Should we look at the world? Should we look at the Torah from the point of Soviv Kolmim or from Amalek Kolmim? They said, who's going to decide? Manochak Rabba Bar Nachmani. Rabba Bar Nachmani said, Ani Yechid ben Goyim. I am unique, special, Yechid. Therefore, he knew the real true source of the law. And he found the sentence, and he learned from the sentence. Remember, it says Lataro, Latamo, and the Torah, it says these are the laws of Tzorat, to make it pure or to make it impure. So because it starts with pure, therefore, if you have a doubt, you go pure. Therefore, he says, in Tome, nothing is impure unless it's certainly impure, the view of God, which is not the case according to the Metifta the Rekia, the heavenly court. They said, Lo matzuzo b'Torah. They didn't find this reason in the Torah. They said it's a doubt. If it's a doubt, it's going to be pure. They only knew what they, according to the way that you understand it, receiving reward in heaven. Everything is logical. They knew that God said Torah, but they're the court. They have to judge according to their understanding. That's the law. Lefia sagatam, according to their understanding of the Torah. So it seems that it's Tameh. Hainu lefisha sagatam in heaven is only in this level of mamalakom. Everything has to be logical. There's a whole story, it's also in Baba Metzia, about Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer. And the point of the story is that the whole court said one thing, and a heavenly voice came out and agreed with them. Right? A heavenly voice came out and agreed with him, and he said the law is not in heaven. Right? I disagree. He went according to his logic. I disagree. It was a whole big thing. But then he said, in any case, a voice came out from heaven and announced the law, and Rabbi Yeshua said, I don't have to listen to the law. Rabbi Yeshua was Rabbi Eliezer. I don't remember which one it was. I think Rabbi. Okay. In any case, if laws are announced from heaven, you don't have to listen to them. Why? Because the Torah is here in the physical world. According to this, so therefore, okay. This is the surrounding level. And Panini, Behelem, this is called Gan Eden. So God created what's called the heavenly court, and the heavenly court has to decide according to their understanding and not according to heavenly voices. And they're said according to our understanding, it's the law is that this, if there's a doubt about this Tzorat, it's impure. They understand, they understood what God said, that God said is pure. But the reason for this, they didn't understand. Because they couldn't understand the God's way of understanding it, this called Soviv Kolmim, was too high. Now, I have to remember that what they're talking about here is the Torah, and the Torah is doing the impossible. It's taking the essence will of God, the Creator, much above the creation, and it's putting it into a book. That's the whole miraculousness of the Jewish people, to put essence of God into the world. Rabbi Bar Nachmani, Shehu Yachid ben Agoyim. What does it mean, Yachid? Shemidragatahu mevichines ha'ara zu atzm. That Rabbi Bar Nachmani, he was a Jew in the physical world, and he devoted himself so much to the Torah that he reached the essence of God as it is revealed, as it's possible to be revealed in this world. Masha makif zorech ba'or panimi. Then the essence of God shining into the world. So to speak, he did something that even God himself can't do. And the reason behind this is very simple. God can't overcome obstacles. He can't defy his nature. Rabbi Bar Nachmani, by being in this world and defying his nature, overcoming all obstacles to understanding and to sitting and to learning and to do it all for the sake of God. A person can learn like a professor. He can sit and learn. That's no amazing accomplishment. He's just an intelligent person. Rabbi Nachman, he devoted himself totally to God, and he learned the Torah. Therefore, he reached this level of the surrounding level that it could shine into the physical world. Al-Ken, therefore, he's called Yechid. Therefore, he said, I am Yechid. He was above all of the other wise men in his generation, even above the wise men as they are in the heavenly court. That all of the wise men of the generation, they're what's called Orpanimi. And that was the Makiv surrounds in the Orpanimi. This is concealed from them. They couldn't do this thing of bringing godliness into the world. But Rabbi Bar Nachmani, who Atzmo himself was from this essential level of godliness that said Torah, and he was like God in the world, God's opinion, God's awareness in the world. Therefore, he could actually find a reason for the opinion that God had. The way that God expressed it, there was no reason for it. It just, God looked at it from Soviv Kolmim. If there's a doubt, everything is pure. That I think, we can say that's the reason that God even creates evil people in this world, because even the most evil person has the ability that he can change, and it's always a doubt: can the person change or not? Okay, that's what Rabbi Bar Nachmani said. Let's see where this ends over here. 1 minute. Oh, here it is. Here it is. You see? Okay, listen to something interesting. So it's pretty clear, right? The Torah, that God says it's pure. If there's a doubt in this, it's pure. And Rabbi Bar Nachmani said that it's also pure. Right? And the only ones that say that this, if there's a doubt about what the hair came before the discoloration, is only what's called the heavenly court. So it's pretty clear, the law is that it's pure. Hine Rambam, Maimonides, in second paragraph of Matzorah, Tumas Matzorah, he says that the law is like the heavenly court. He says that it's Tameh. And also the Kesev Mishnah. Kesev Mishnah is the what's the name? Yosef Karo, one of the explanations of Mishum, because the Tana Kama and Rabbi Yeshua, Pligi B'zeh, because there's an argument between Rabbi Yeshua and the Tana Kama in the last, in the end of the 4th chapter of Negoim, and the law is like the Tana Kama. Even though that God said that it's Torah, nevertheless, Lo B'Shamayim, it's not in heaven. That's what I told you before. But according to Rabbi Shimon, it seems to imply that the law is like Rabbi Yeshua. That what? Because God said Tahor. Okay, what's going on over here? The Rambam, he says the argument is still going on. Even though the God says that it's Tahor, and Rabbi Bar Nachmani said it was Tahor, and only the heavenly court said that it was impure, but we see that there's also another argument in another place, and that the Rambam decides against God. He decides like the heavenly court. Says maybe we can say like this, that the rabbis say on Rabbi Meir, Shoya Omer al Tameh Tahor, Omar Elo Panim, that Rabbi Meir, he could explain, Rabbi Meir, he was like in the generation of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. They were both pupils of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Meir, it said he could decide laws that no one agreed with. And he said, Ki achachma hi nimshachat milamayla derech sa'arot. And he would say laws, and the laws wouldn't be like him, because it says nobody could understand what he was saying. It says the reason is that the Torah is God's will and God's understanding, and this is drawn down through what's called very thin strands of godliness, which is called the 13 tufts of the beard. These are the 13 ways that the Torah can be learned by it. And these hairs are like very great constrictions of God's wisdom. But when this wisdom is like in the level of Keter, then it can be very, very wide. That's what's called Afilu ein sof, like we said, soviv call me. Therefore, that was Rabbi Meir. Meir was something like this level of Rabbi Bar Nachmani. He could show all the reasons for all these laws that it's impossible. No, I'm sorry. From this level of what's called the face of Erech Anpin. Okay, that level. Therefore, Rabbi Meir, he could say even things that the rabbi said were impure, he could say it was pure. Because that's the whole thing of Rabbi Meir. But all the rabbis of his generation, they couldn't understand what he was saying. What? Because they already drew down how they understood. It was like the heavenly court. So therefore, the law is never like Rabbi Meir, because you go according to the majority of the law. This is like the law, the argument that I told you between Rabbi Akiva, between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer. It says, Lo b'shamayim, the Torah is not in heaven. Okay, the Torah was already drawn down into the world. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, that's the union of Lo b'shamayim, that the Torah is not in heaven, because Shamayim, this is this level of makifim, of Chai Yechida. In other words, the what we said before, Soviv Cholmim, what God's opinion, and the Torah is already drawn down into the world, into what's called the heavenly court. So according to this, we can say that the Rambam that he decides like God. Why? Because it says that Rabbah, he was Yechid in Nagaim and Ohalot, namely, he reached this level of Chaya and Yechida. Nevertheless, we go after the majority of people. So that's the truth. The truth is that Sha'ani, the Hacha Sha'ani, the it's different. She'en zed dome lahai d'acharei rabin lahatos. Here, maybe we can say that it's different because why? We see that there is an argument, a Mishnah. But here it is different because God said Tahor. Okay, what are we talking about over here? Listen, the point he wants to get to is like this: the importance of the rabbis in this physical world, and the importance of arguments, the importance of having different opinions. That's the whole essence of what the Torah is. And these different opinions, that's what purifies the world. That's what purifies all humanity. That's the Torah. That's the purpose of the Torah. And that's why there are these arguments in the Torah. It's not because they didn't know, because God wanted them to refine and to purify human awareness, human intellect, human consciousness, to come to the truth, to the degree that there could even be an argument between God and the heavenly court and the rabbis in this world, until it finally came down to the Rambam, that he's going to hold like Rebbe Meir. The Rebbe Meir gave reasons that no one could have possibly understand. But that's the whole idea of purifying the whole world through the Torah. In the end, when Moshiach comes, rebuilds the third temple, as then there's going to be back these laws of Tuma and Tahora, but it'll be in a totally different way. The idea of what is going to be pure and impure will be on such a tremendously high level, and everyone will be striving for it. Something like when Mashiach comes, it says that there's going to be the cities of refuge for people that killed others by accident. And one of the reasons they say, what do you mean? There's not going to be anybody killing anybody. It's going to be, it says then the whole idea of killing somebody will be in such a high level, right? Such a high level. It won't have to be physical. So the people will have to run to cities of refuge in order to improve themselves, to improve their whole way of thinking and their whole attitude. So when Mashiach comes, the whole idea is going to be self-improvement, coming closer and closer to the ultimate and infinite truth of God, revealing all human potential in the world and overlooking all negative things. And the Torah is going to be the guideline to do that. How the striving in the Torah is going to be an example for us to constantly strive for improving ourselves. Now let's learn the Devar Malchut. I didn't really think we would be able to finish this, but thank God. I mean, at least we got a taste of what it's talking about.